with Millicent Evans. To John, Millie was the Queen of Sheba, the ultimate female. Sometimes she loved him, John moaned, but other times she treated him like a complete stranger. Other times she complained that he was stalking her. Ridiculous, John had told Tony, as if he had to stalk her, when she was often waiting for him at his apartment, when he got off from work as a night watchman, wearing nothing at all. John's description of the spinster was incomprehensible to Tony, who had had beautiful, intelligent, wealthy women after him. He'd never had to chase a woman. Millicent Evans had no looks, no personality, and she seemed rather dull-witted. He'd never been able to understand what John saw in her. Now John was dead. Millicent Evans had driven him to suicide. Tony stared at the pale, lifeless face, and rage built inside him. What sort of woman used a man like that? Abused his love to the extent that she caused him to take his own life? The funeral director had a phone call, which forced him to approach the silent man in the viewing room. He paused beside him. "Would you be Mr. Danzetta?" the man asked respectfully. The caller had identified him as tall and unconventional-looking. That was an understatement. Up close, the man was enormous, and those black eyes cut like a diamond. "I'm Tony Danzetta," he replied in a deep, gravelly voice. "Your friend, Mr. Marriott, just phoned to tell us to expect you. He said you had a special request about the burial." "Yes," Tony told him. In his cashmere coat that reached down to his ankles, he looked elegant. "I have 2 plots in a perpetual care cemetery just outside San Antonio, a short distance from where my foster mother is buried. I'd like you to put John in one of them." He was remembering a hill in Cherokee, North Carolina, where his mother was buried, and a cemetery in Atlanta that held the remains of his father and his younger sister. He'd been in San Antonio since junior high school, with his foster mother. He described the plots, one of which he intended for John. "I have a plot of the location in my safe deposit box. If I could drop it by in the morning?" "Today would be better," the man replied apologetically. "We have to get our people to open the grave and prepare it for the service on the day after tomorrow, you understand." He was juggling appointments, one of which was with his banker about a transfer of funds, but he smiled, as if it was of no consequence. He could get the plat out of the box while he was doing business at the bank. "No problem. I'll drop it by on my way to the hotel tonight." "Thank you. That will save us a bit of bother." Tony looked down at John. "You did a good job," he said quietly. "He looks the way he used to look." The man smiled broadly. Tony looked at his watch. "I have to go. I'll be back when I've finished my business in town." "Yes, sir." "If Frank shows up before I get back, tell him that, well, and tell him not to go out for food. I'll take him out to eat tonight." "I will." "Thanks." The funeral director walked out of the viewing room, pausing to speak to someone. Tony, his eyes resting sadly on his friend's face, only half noticed the conversation. He heard soft footsteps come toward the casket and pause beside him. He turned his head. And there she was, the culprit herself. She'd be 26 now, he judged, and she was no more attractive than she'd been all those years ago. She dressed better. She was wearing a neat gray suit with a pink blouse and a thick dark coat. Her dark brown hair was in a bun. She was wearing contacts in her green eyes, he imagined, because his foster mother had often mentioned how nearsighted she was. The lack of glasses didn't help her to look any prettier. She had a nice mouth and good skin, but she held no attraction for Tony, especially after she'd been responsible for his best friend's death. "I'm very sorry," she said quietly. She looked at John with no visible sign of emotion. "I never meant it to end like this." "Didn't you?" He turned, his hands in the pockets of his coat, as he glared down at her with piercing dark eyes. "Teasing him for years, playing hard to get, and calling the police to have him arrested as a stalker, and you didn't mean it to end like this." She felt cold all over. She knew he'd worked in construction years ago, but there had been rumors about him since. Whispers, dark whispers. John had intimated that Tony was into illegal operations, that he'd killed men. Looking into his black eyes now, she could believe it. He wasn't the man she'd known. What had he said about her?